demo. What I want to talk to you is Neil talked a lot about examples from what we've seen from the news. There were questions around telemetry. What do we see at Druva? I actually want to show you a prototypical example. So given our footprint, I can tell you that it's a secular trend we see across workloads. We see ransomware attacks on the edge, spreading to the cloud, as well as in the data center and public cloud, right? So no workload is spared over there. This is a customer of ours that we actually helped recover in 4 days, where the attacker in question got and compromised the customer's environment. They had a footprint in Active Directory, which means you have the keys to the kingdom, and leveraged that to actually spread a malicious payload onto all of their edge devices. And once they actually spread that payload onto all of their edge devices, they actually initiated a mass encryption event, and all of the data in their cloud accounts like OneDrive and SharePoint were encrypted as well. Right? Again, this is hopefully there's something the customer's primary security tools would have caught. But from a Druva standpoint, what we saw to some of the questions that were asked earlier is these threat actors, in terms of their TTP, they actually attempt a backup compromise as well. Because if you own an enterprise's SSO, right, you have the keys to the kingdom. If you're using SSO to actually access other kinds of services and so on, you can assume they're going to try and compromise those as well. So this intruder in question, you see this timestamp, they did attempt a backup compromise. We noticed it in close to real time and actually alerted the customer in terms of this abnormal activity. We have a rapid response workflow where customers actually respond and confirm if there indeed is an attack going. When the customer actually confirms, we actually initiate a set of rapid response processes in place where we help them with cyber recovery in terms of putting together a cyber recovery plan, right? So think of when somebody like Mandiant comes to mind, think of something like Mandiant, but just for backup and recovery, right? So that's what Druva is doing there. And this customer leveraged our cyber recovery capabilities, being able to lock down infected backups, being able to recover safely, securely, leverage our curation capabilities. Again, I'll bring it to life in terms of a demo, but again, this is a example of how customers leverage this. And again, we see a handful of attacks every other week and have a lot of experience that helps us improve our products.
Question.
Go ahead.
So just to make sure I fully understand. So it took over almost 8 hours to initiate a recovery, and that recovery completed within 4 days?
Good question. So to clarify the timeline here, so the customer actually identified a intrusion in their environment Friday, 8 p.m., right? And they were investigating that. In parallel, while the customer was investigating, the bad actors were still in the environment, doing lateral movement. They attempted to compromise backups at like midnight Saturday. We noticed it within 45 minutes and actually reached out to the customer. And then once the customer actually confirmed that there was something going on, we initiated recovery on Saturday morning, right? Once the customer had actually contained the infection in their environment, gave us the go-ahead, we worked with the customer to actually, I'll build the slide out, but to essentially recover all of this data back into their massive environment across the edge, as well as M365. And that, to answer your question, the recovery completed in 4 days. I don't recall the number off the top of my head, but it was in the order of a few terabytes, if you will, in terms of recovery there.
Okay, thanks.
So I want to drill into you identified abnormal activity. Obviously, it sounds like the customer knew something was going on, but the way that you've set this up, it sounds like independently you discovered that something abnormal was going on. You may get into this more in the demo, but I'm kind of curious at a high level what you used to identify that. Like, was it the fact that they tried to compromise the backups? Was it something within the data that was being backed up that you noticed? Can you maybe talk about that a little bit more?
Absolutely, Brian. Great question. I'm just trying to be conscious of time. So let me get through the demo, and then I think we have time thereafter to be able to address that. I definitely want to get through the demo, and I'm happy to answer those questions of yours. Right?
Sounds good.